Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So today's upload is going to be a video about a potential pattern change that I already made a video about actually several days ago, and it was a very preliminary one. It was just talking about the models showing some brief indications, some really, really not anything significant indications of a cool off. So I decided, not to take that one too deeply. But over the next couple of days, since that video was released, the models have continuously been showing these this ongoing pattern change across the United States, where we could be seeing cool shots of air across the northern U.S. Where we thought we would be very hot, where it could actually cool off quite significantly at times. Yes, it will be. There'll still be phases of very warm temperatures. But it looks as if the cool weather is also going to be there. So if you guys would like to subscribe, before we get into this video, this is a weather-related channel. I do all sorts of weather-related content. If you are new, consider subscribing. If you are a returning fan, thank you so much for watching this video. It really means a lot for you clicking on this video. And if you would like to support the video and the channel, you could like the video and comment down below whatever you would like. So let's look at the Gfs model. So the main reason as to why these shots of cooler air are going to be coming is because of these because of these large storm systems. I mean, this storm is big, and it's actually a combination of two across southern Canada. This is a combination of provinces of Manitoba and Saskatchewan, and it's a little bit further to the north. I could actually zoom out, and let's go to North American continent for a brief period. You can see there they are. They're spinning. And it's a very powerful storm, to say the least. And this storm, Canada, cooler air, it has enough energy where, all low pressures in the northern hemisphere spin counterclockwise, so its winds are in this type of manner. And what this does is, after this cold front passes through, which, will bring some severe weather, some rain, which I make separate videos about. I think yesterday I made a video about it. You can see that the cold air, after this passes through, let me just delete this drawing, and now let's play this forward. Notice how we get, you see we get this cold air flowing into the country. Can't really see it that clearly on this map if you're not used to seeing this map, but I could tell by the alignment of the isobars this is indicating of cool air. And if you were to look at the 2-meter temperature anomaly, you can see there's that cool air. Obviously it's more significant as you further go up north. As it reaches further to the south, it gets weakened. So it definitely isn't as impactful for the southeast or southern U.S., but it definitely does a number across the northern U.S. and especially the Midwest. And you can see that even if this air, it doesn't look too cold, it's not. This is a anomaly graph. This doesn't show you where the air is cold or not. This shows you where it is above average. I mean, this could be, the average right here on that little tip of that of Quebec. Could be, maybe 50 degrees average. I'm just ballparking. I have no clue actually what the average is here. Maybe 50 degrees, maybe a bit lower. Say 45 to 50 degrees. And if it's above average, it's 55 degrees. But if you get that air 55 degrees down here, this will all turn blue because the average across the United States is 80. So let's look at the 2-meter temperature shaded, and you can see that exactly. Look, you have 60s, 50s, 40s across this part of the country. Now it gets pretty warm when it's above average, but it's still cooler air. And you can see that this is where it gets very hot across the southern U.S. And here in Greenland, it stays below freezing most of the year. And you can see that there are a few phases where it gets a bit colder, a bit warmer, but generally it's pretty bitter down up there. So let's take a look at back to the MSLP and precip map, so I could just show you we're going to have a couple of these storms. See, we have this first one brings in a shot of cool air. We get a little bit of a warming phase, warm up, some heat. We get some thunderstorm spawning, but then look, we have this other system pass through, kind of sets the stage for some cooler air. Maybe not as powerful as the first wave, but then we have this storm, which is further to the south, equally as strong, and it really delivers quite a punch. And, this would have been, I guess, uncalled for if it had been 1 or 2 model runs. This video wouldn't really have a reasoning if this was 1 or 2 model runs, but let me tell you that this has been for several days. 3 to 4 days has been already showing this, and 3 to 4 days consists of many countless model runs, which with each one they get closer and closer to the truth of what's going to actually happen, if you will. So let's look at the temperature anomalies now, and let's look at what the actual below versus above average readings are going to be. So right now across the Midwest it's cooler, and across the Northwest, everywhere else it's pretty warm. Notice that the Midwest doesn't really stay too hot. It doesn't really get hot because of the storm system to the north. Brings quite a bit of cooler air to the north. Really, the southern U.S. gets still pretty warm. But the Midwest doesn't really get back into the heat for a while. You could see Thursday, Friday, still some cooler air. Now, at this point, it's a lot less significant. We start getting warmer temperatures. You know, the anomalies of the orange and red or the red colors are becoming more prevalent, which indicates higher temperatures. And a few spotches, spots where we could get a few, below average, like the Northeast, the Midwest, and parts of the Northwest. Really, though, that's insignificant. We need a bigger blob of colder air to call it a major pattern change. And, you know, we get this first one. That's pretty significant. It dies down. We get heat. And you can see that between these phases of cool air, we're going to get heat. It's going to be downright hot. But then, I mean, that's what we expect. It's middle of July. It's the hottest time of the year. Okay, but then notice, after that, a storm passes through the second one. And not the one that's further to the south. Okay, so not the third one, but the second one in line. Okay, you can see it also delivers some cool air, especially across the northern plains into Nebraska, Iowa, Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota. This one doesn't make it far to the south at all. You can see it gets eat up by the warm air, and we get a few patches of cooler air, but that's really probably bought by cloud cover, nothing really else, probably some rain-cooled air, nothing too significant in terms of pattern change. But you can see the heat is back on, so this is going to be a phase, we thought that it would mainly be warm like this for most of July, really nothing out of the ordinary, or nothing else, but now we're seeing these signals for, look at this is a bigger pattern change. This is a pretty significant one. You can see there's a pretty big, large area to the north. So we get these little shots of cool air, which aren't really that little, to be honest with you. They are pretty, they bring the temperatures pretty far down below average. You can see that we get widespread 60s and 70s during the day on this Sunday, July 26th, while the south still is baking in the 90s. And this is unbearable. I mean, yeah, that's warm, but it's not record-breaking by any means. Right? The northeast is going to be very hot. That could be some record-breaking temperatures, but for the south, not too bad. The west at this time is going to be hot, and you can see if you were to look at the anomalies, it's just ridiculously warm, especially across the northeast. But you can see the south is really not awful. So look at that. That is significant, and again, this is brought by some rather large storm systems. Now you may be wondering, this is the GFS, so let's see some other models. The GFS, very consistent with what has been happening, and it continues showing this day-by-day model run by model run. If I were to count how many model runs this has been through and still showing this cold air, probably close to 15 or 20, which is pretty consistent, if you know anything about the weather. Now let's look at the European. The European has been less consistent, but it seems like it's been dragging along with the GFS scenario. So notice, it has cool air right now across the Midwest. This is a little bit higher up in the atmosphere, so it's a bit more skewed, but it still relatively does a good job. But notice, we get that warm period late this week into the weekend, and then we see another cool off. So that's in line with that. And then after that, it doesn't go further, but the GFS has another cool off that's more significant than this cool off. So the European so far is catching along kind of pretty well. Let's look at the Gfs Ensembles. Let's see what they're showing. They may be showing something a bit more supportive, since GFS is in the GEFS family. Okay, so let's take a look at this. This sometimes takes a bit to load. But let's go back to our current hour. Notice that the Midwest is cooler, the Northwest is cooler. We get, again, that kind of that prolonged area of coolness across the Midwest up until really late this week, and we start getting that heat bouncing back in. Sunday, Saturday, Friday warm. Then we get that cool air wave, which you can see not all GFS models are supportive of it, since it's not as blue as what the GFS is showing. Some are definitely warmer scenarios, some are definitely cooler, but you can see that generally has that little indicator of cooler air. Then it starts getting warmed up with little patches of blue, and you might be wondering, what are these fluctuations between suddenly some blue colors and orange versus all orange. This is the nighttime low, so it seems like the nighttime lows will be above average versus the daytime lows, which will be closer to average. Still above average, but not as big of an anomaly. So really, it's the nights that are going to be much warmer than the days in terms of its deviation from average. Now you can see it doesn't really show much indication of the tertiary wave, which the GFS was strongly supportive of, and that makes sense because it's far out. So many models have their own little way of showing their scenarios. So one goes very warm, one goes very cold, and we just get an averaged out really more warmer scenario, since that's what's been happening. So they're kind of a bit biased towards that, but definitely some indications of cooler air, which we haven't been having in a long range forecast in a while. So it's definitely some good news for those that want some cooler air across the Midwest. Let's look at the European ensembles. You can see that showing this first wave, showing the second wave, a bit weaker than what the European shows itself, but it also has that secondary, tertiary one as well. And again, this won't be a really a huge change in terms of, oh, it feels cold. It'll be more like, oh, it's a relief, pleasant air, because we've been having absolutely muggy, disgusting air. It's been hot, it's been humid. So this cool air is gonna come as a more of a relief rather than a, oh well, it's getting downright cold. It's not that time of the year. Anyone probably at this time would rather prefer to see cooler air on the map than, or the blue color than the warm, because the warm usually means dangerous versus the cool means comfortable. Thank you guys so much for watching. Consider liking the video, consider subscribing to this channel. That's all I have for you today. Hopefully you enjoyed, hopefully you learned something new, and I'll catch you guys in the next episode. See ya. Bye.